Yeah, I was always the person that like I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. But I would when I was with my ex and always having drugs on me, and I would be getting like alcohol driven to me like by, I don't remember, it's like dial a bottle type shit. I can't remember. But I always say like, okay, once I get rid of all this alcohol and do all of this, I'll be done. But then it's like gonna still take me a while to keep doing it, right? And then once after the 3 days are done, it's like, okay, now I want more. And it's like that deadly cycle. But I remember too realizing that I had like, maybe this is a problem. Like I think it was, oh God, I was just always bailing on people. And I was bailing, and I'd rather get high than hang out with people. And I'd rather be alone than hang out with people. I'd rather, even like grabbing a bag with like friends and stuff, I'd grab my own bag secretly and then keep it and then just go get high by myself. And then I liked it because nobody judged me. Nobody judged the amount I was doing.
Welcome to Recovering Out Loud podcast. The opinions expressed here are those of the individuals and not of any organization. Emily, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
It's a little sweaty and hot, but we made it happen. Yeah. This was, like I always say, like court management and like having people is so underrated. So
absolutely. Honestly, I was just saying that I feel so inspired with all the work that you're doing behind the scenes. So well done, guys. Really well done. For someone who's been on a podcast for a year and still hasn't have her shit together. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and let's not get it twisted. Like you said, we still don't have our shit together.
Yeah, and I think that's like why I feel comfortable, maybe.
Yeah,
but it's nice to have another like-minded person on here. You said that you have a recovery podcast as well, correct?
I do, yes. So my recovery podcast is called Talks on the Rocks. I've been doing it. I know the name was actually a tough one because I was trying to think. Well, my brother actually helped me out with it. So I was trying to think like on a rocky, like rocks, but then, there's like drinks on the rocks. So I was kind of going both ways with it. But then when I started, obviously things were very rocky for me. So I went to like Talks on the Rocks in that way. But there are other podcasts that are about cocktail making that is called Talks on the Rocks. And I'm like, no. So there's like ways that you can see it. People view it differently in other ways, but I am really proud of it. So
no, for sure, you should be.
Thanks.
Yeah, should be.
Yeah, and I love the picture. You have a picture for anyone listening. Go check it out. It's a great podcast. But you have a picture of yourself like pouring out a drink on the ice. I love that.
I know, so seriously. Good. And then that's kind of what made it, right? Just the rocks just coming out of it and just, you want to kind of let it all out. And I think that was the symbolism that I was going for.
Yeah. And I think it's super cool. I was saying this to you as we're setting up, like, things like that come with addiction and mental health, they're already so hard to talk about. And it's cool to see someone else that's putting themselves out there to talk about these problems. So yeah, it's inspiring for us as well. And,
I appreciate that. And that's why I'm really happy to be here with you guys, because I completely understand it and I respect that for sure. And even your name of the podcast, like Recovery Out Loud, that's huge, because I remember in my first episode, I always said the reason I'm doing this is so I can do this out loud so people can stop dying quietly. Like there was like a thing that I said and it kind of clicked. And recovering out loud is the best way for like us, at least, but it's amazing.
Well, especially because like addiction in of itself is such an isolating disease. Right? The biggest problem for me, one of the biggest problems is I'm very good at keeping my problems to myself, hiding in my room, not, connecting with people. And that just keeps me sicker and sicker every day, right? So I couldn't agree more. It's like, it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I love it. They always say addiction's the opposite of community.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I've never actually heard that, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's so true, though. Like, if you're doing this alone, it's not easy. No. It's really not easy. And, like, obviously, everyone has a different story with it all. But I think having people, like-minded people around does make such a difference in your recovery. For sure.
So, Emily, to give the viewers a little bit of insight on who you are and what you've been through, why don't you give us a quick little letdown on you?
Yeah. So I grew up in Niagara Falls. I grew up actually in a small town in Niagara Falls with my parents. My parents are very well off. My dad was very well off. My mom was at home with us because I have a twin brother. So her hands were full, obviously. But my childhood was really good. I have no complaints about it. I think there was a lot of childhood trauma growing up as I was getting older because I was always really bad in school. And you know how they always diagnose like boys with ADHD?
Yeah.
I had it for sure, but they never thought I was. They never thought I would fit the profile because I had a twin brother who was just fucking off the walls. And like I would be calm, cool. Like I was a ballerina. I was like collected. And so, but I was so bad in school.
Bad in what sense? Like grade wise?
Grade wise. Like I was always like just off in La La Land. Like I was just not paying attention. Like math was just, I always got D's, never A's, like awful in school. And so then my mom set me up with a tutor. And the tutor, unfortunately, was really bad. I do say this in my podcast. I don't know why it's hard saying this now, but he I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous talking about this right now. This is weird.
Oh, it's hard.
But he used to like touch me.
Your professor?
Yeah, no, my tutor.
Tutor?
Yeah.
Wow, and this wasn't at school, this was like at home?
This was at home, and I was about 11 years old.
Jesus.
So he would come every Friday. My mom would say like, hey, whatever, I'm not saying his name, but hey. And then we work at the dinner table together and he would just be touching me under the table and going like, it was bad. And I thought in my head, I'm like, is this right? Like, is this something that I should be doing in order to get good grades? Like, what the fuck, you know? Wow. So it was just one of those things that started that way. In growing up, I always cared what people thought about me. In high school, going off in that, I always wanted to fit in. I always wanted to be a part of something. And drinking was actually like kind of late I was like pretty late in my drinking career, actually. Like I started drinking when I was about 14, and like the first sip, I loved it. Like, I'm like, this is me. This is real. I wasn't who I was. I was funnier. I was more talkative. I was just like a better person drinking. And then after that, weed came, and I used to smoke weed every day. And then from there on, it really escalated to drugs. And when I say drugs, like it's mainly cocaine. And so that really took over my life. And since I did my first line ever, it was like, I'm home. Yeah. This is me now. Like, this is my personality. This is who I am.
You have arrived.
I have arrived. Yes. It's so crazy. And, you know, I always thought like, no, I would never get addicted to this. And then like, as the years come, like, ooh, okay, this could be a problem, but like, you never know, right? You're just kind of in this, I'm not
like denial state.
Denial. Yeah, exactly. Or like you compare yourself to other people. And I'm not there. Or like, you know, I have great parents. I have a great family. Like I shouldn't be an addict, but addiction actually does run in my family more with alcoholism. But yeah, that's like mainly my story growing up, is just always trying to fit in. And also, I was a dancer, a competitive dancer, so like my dance teacher always gave me shit about my weight and body dysmorphia completely. So
is that a common thing in dance? Wow.
Yeah, especially in ballet. Like there's a few stories. Like she made us, I know this sounds really fucked up, but she made us get a penny. Like, do you remember pennies? And you have to put it in between your butt crack and then dance a whole like 5 minutes without it falling. And if it falls, you hear it and you have to do like 10 push-ups or something, and she'll fucking, it's fucked.
How old were you?
I was probably around the same age. Well, I grew up dancing all my life, and that time, like that specific story, was probably when I was like 8 or 9.
That's crazy. Oh my God, I've never heard that.
And like
before.
I would just go home and tell my mom about it, and like she's like, I don't think that's normal. But I love dancing because it's actually an escape for me in ways. Besides my crazy teacher and the competitiveness and just the pressure of it, I did enjoy it a lot, and I still do.
You still do, yeah. You were telling me, yeah. Wow, that's insane. So, like, from a young age, you're already being told you're not right.
Enough.
You're not enough. Thank you. You're not enough, and that's essentially, you know, they always say, well, one's too many and 1,000's never enough. This is a disease of not enough.
Yeah,
right?
never.
One pair of shoes is not enough. Right?
Oh my God, never.
So yeah, like, what are you supposed to? You know, you're growing up with these like ways of life, these kind of. I don't know, narratives that they're putting in your head. How are you supposed to recover from that?
Exactly.
So like, how did you deal with it? Yeah.
I think it was just like always comparing myself, but obviously dealing with it was drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, for sure.
That's helped so much. Like drugs and alcohol were like my savior. It was my crutch. It was everything that I wanted and more. If I had a bad day, it's like, you know, it's going to be fine. I'm going to get fucked up later. And then 4 days later, it's like, whatever. But that's like kind of how I dealt with it for a really, really long time. And that's why it took me a while to get sober, because I tried getting sober in 2018.
Okay.
I went to my first rehab, and I was like it was desperation then for sure. And I was like, okay, yeah, like shit, this is getting tough. Like I remember I came home after like a 4-day bender, and I like was doing bumps in my car, and I came home after a 4-day bender. My parents were sitting down and they found like a little baggie, and they're like, we think you need help. And I literally like went almost to my knees. I'm like, yes, like take me, like I'm so done, like I'm so fucking tired. I'm tired. And that was a lot of desperation there for me. Then moving forward, I was still not ready. I didn't do it for myself. I did it for my mom, my dad, other people, not the right reasons that they always say. It was a tough go for me. So now dealing with, you know, shit that I feel different about, I think it's more of like a spiritual thing, which I really appreciate. If things get hard, I just try to like roll it off my back, but I don't want to drink over things. Like it's not enough to drink, like make me drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like this won't, you know, I always say is like, I have one problem, right? And it's whatever, whatever it is in the moment. For me right now, it's money. Like I have this issue. It's I don't have money. I'm still recouping and recovering from my last bout and craziness and staying at every fucking fancy hotel in Toronto.
That's funny story.
I'm still paying for that, right? But I have this problem, and it's like I pick up drugs and alcohol. If I decide to do that, now I have 2 problems. Right. Yeah. And then it just multiplies, and it's like it never ends, right? So it's a good
for me. Like now that I'm not using drugs to cope with my problems, I was talking about this in the last episode. I use it like when I get like, let's say something's upsetting me or I'm emotional about something. I deal with it by getting pissed off now.
Interesting, like anger.
Anger, yeah. So I learned this that anger is like a secondary emotion. It's not like, you know, sometimes you will get mad at the beginning, but usually the reason that I get mad is because something is hurting me, or I don't like what's going on.
It's fear too.
It's fear, right? So then I'll just like, you know, fuck that guy. He's an idiot. That's how I deal with my problems, right? I still think it's better than, you know, putting drugs up my nose. Oh my God,
absolutely. And sorry to interrupt. I liked how you said like fear is an emotion, because like people look at that as a problem. It's crazy, but you need that.
It's a natural reaction, defense mechanism.
Defense mechanism, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's like, when I see people, this is inspiring to me. When I see someone like, you know, maybe this person just got told to fuck off. You know, someone just, you're a fucking idiot, buddy. And then the guy just doesn't get mad. Just like he's so emotionally stable and aware of how he feels. It's like, wow, I wish I could be like that guy.
It just like rolls off their back.
You know, because like right now I'm dealing with some stuff that's like stressing me out about work and money as well. And like, you know, I'm trying to like do this on my own and not have to like rely on talking to my family about everything. I'm trying to be an adult, right?
Oh, of course.
And it's nothing has to do with anger in the situation, but I'm getting angry about it. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with it by getting mad and being like, oh, it's my boss's fault. It's my dad's fault.
You're victimizing.
I'm victimizing, right?
I do that too. And I'm still really bad with that. And like to like, your self-awareness though is pretty good if you're talking about that right now, you know. Victimizing yourself is always something like that's a coping mechanism for people who are in addiction. Well, I grew up this way, so I had to be an addict, or my dad, like, you know what I mean. And victimizing, I still it's hard. It's really hard, and it's hard to stop, but I think the awareness is there for sure for you, which is exciting.
It's hard to look in the mirror and be like, no, this is my fault, and I'm the only one who can control this, right? Versus, it's a lot easier to be like, no, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault.
So much easier. So much fucking easier. I blamed everyone but myself. Everyone. Even, like, for my relapses, I'd blame them on other people. Like, I remember being like, oh, I was at, like, a therapy group, and some person gave me a dirty look, and I walked out really angry, so I went and relapsed. Like, stupid shit. Like, just really, like, come on. You didn't have to.
And I remember I had a therapist that would always, because I would do that too. I would go out and be like, oh, my mom's pissing me off. My wife's pissing me off. Yeah. I'm gonna go use. I'm gonna show them. Right.
Show you, and show you all hurt me.
Exactly. Thing. And she always said to me, she's like, you're the only one you're hurting when you're doing that. Right. Every time you use, you're going out and saying fuck you to yourself. Like that's essentially what's happening every time you use. Right.
You're killing yourself.
Yeah. So so you talked about what happened to kind of bring you into treatment. I was reading. You know, I do this sometimes. I go on Reddit and I look at addiction threads, and people post like what they're going through and all this. And I read this one this morning. I couldn't help but look at it. It was a guy that was about to go into rehab. He's like, I finally made this, decision. I'm scared. I'm terrified. I'm angry. And I was just reading it, and I'm just like, oh man, like I wish I could reach out and hug this guy right now. And I commented something like, it gets better. This is the first step. Like, but when you're going into it, it's the worst decision in your life. In your
Oh,
mind,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Nobody wants to go to rehab.
No one
but
came on a winning streak.
yeah, that I know. There's a song about that. I think it's Jelly Roll. But yeah, no, you're broken going into that, and I think like for me personally, in my first rehab, like I was broken, I was ready, but I was just like, let me get this over with, so I can be good with my parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was kind of like, I think I just had like a spiritual awakening in rehab, because I went into rehab at the beginning, and like I think back on this, and I've talked about it with Anthony, friends, my parents. I don't really know. There was no real thing in my head. Like, I didn't go to my parents and say, please bring me to rehab, right? It was just like Anthony said. It was like just like the right time. The right timing happened. I had nothing left. I had no money left, no friends left. I was just like, hey, I need something else besides this. Because I don't even, if I had $10 right now, I wouldn't go to rehab because I'd go get high. But I don't even have $10 right now. So, you know, I got in the back of the truck or the back of the car, and they drove me 12 hours away to go to rehab. And it wasn't until like probably like 3 or 4 weeks. I stayed in rehab for 3 months. And
good for you. Good for you. That's huge.
It's hard.
And it was like probably around the 4-week mark that I was like, oh shit, like, okay, I need to be here. I needed help. This life is starting to get a little bit better. I'm starting to think a little bit better, see more clearly. Because for the first 4 weeks, man, I was like, I had like that chip on my shoulder, like, fuck this place.
These guys are not as fucked as I am.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
And I also share this funny story. I remember like on the way to rehab, I was like, there's gonna be so many sketchy people there. And then I showed up there. I was the sketchy guy.
You're the sketchy one.
You know?
Everyone's fucking glowing and light, and like it's just like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
And I'm the one just like outside trying to light a cigarette, being like
just shaking.
And everyone's like hugging me. I'm like, get the fuck on me! Like, I'm so much better than you.
And I was also talking about this with Anthony, and it's sad because like, we're all blessed in the sense where, I don't know your situation, but for me and Anthony, I know our parents sent us to rehab, right?
Yeah.
We were very lucky. But like, we were talking, like, how can more addicts get help? And it's like, not every addict, like, especially the ones that don't have families that are supporting them, they're completely alone. Like, how do those people get help?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, like, the opportunity to go to rehab was like, it landed right on my lap, right? But for the people you get to go, right? But there's so many people out there. Like, you think the guy right now who doesn't even have a phone, who only has a toonie to go buy crack, you think that guy's gonna somehow go to a library, get on a computer, and try and book himself into a free rehab? That's never gonna happen.
Not to mention the waiting list, and I confirmed this with my wife. Like, to get into a free rehab in Canada, in Toronto, I should say, it's like, I think the waiting time was like 4 to 6 months, she said, or something like that.
Wow.
I'm not gonna live that long the way I'm going. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
I need to.
Sorry to interrupt, but like,
please.
if I had that mentality, like, okay, in 4 months I'm going to rehab, let me get fucked up now, and then I'd die. I'd probably overdose and die.
That's a good point. If I knew, like, okay, because when I went to rehab,
I have this much time.
My dad come to my house and he's like, he said, "Okay, you want to go to rehab?" And I'm like, "I guess so." Like, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go. He's like, "No, like, make a decision." I said, "Okay, I want to go." He's like, I'm like, I need a little bit of time though. Like, give me like a couple hours here to get my stuff ready. He's like, no, like, I'll be back in 20 minutes and we're going. Like, and he was at my house like 13, 14 minutes later. Yeah. So if you would have been like, okay, we're leaving in 3 days.
No chance.
The 3 days, I would have, who knows what would have happened, right? And that's a great point you bring up, because like, especially when you tell an addict who's like still, 10 feet deep in the addiction, they're gonna tell you, they're gonna go crazy.
Of course.
They're gonna sell every last thing they got, and they're gonna go buy every last drug they can get, and they are going to get high.
It's gonna be a while. I gotta get this in now.
Right.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And I remember that because the 15 minutes I did have where my dad had went back to the house, he probably grabbed some luggage and stuff because he had to stay overnight when they dropped me off. I remember that last 15 minutes. I didn't pack a single thing. I did this.
Blindly packed.
I just got high off my ass for 15 minutes. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Classic.
And it was sad because I don't know if I should be able to talk about this. I was on methadone before I went into treatment, and like, I got onto methadone probably about 8 months before I went to treatment, and my parents, they ended up figuring it out, but like, I would go to the pharmacy in my town to get my drink or whatever, and before we left to hit the highway, it was in the morning, I said, Dad, like, we got to go to the pharmacy, and I remember my dad just, like, I could just, like, feel his feeling. He's like, all right, man, like, he knew I was sick, he knew I needed it at that point, and he's like, all right, we'll go there and we'll get it, like, I know you're going to rehab, you're doing what I'm asking, you know what I mean? But I remember that feeling, like, I felt bad for him, man. I remember him, like, getting out of the truck, me walking to the pharmacy, and just being like, that was a shitty feeling. I'm like, man, no parent should have to do this for their kid right now, right? But, my dad and my mom, they didn't they're not addicts. They don't understand what I was going through or how I felt. But my dad was just like, he could see me. I looked like a fucking ghost. He's like, all right, like just go do what you got to do, right? And thankfully, I ended up getting off that stuff.
For people that don't know, like, what does methadone do?
So,
What's the point?
so methadone, it's a liquid and it's a drink you take essentially, and it's to help you get off opiates, but that's not how it works. What it is it's a very, very strong opiate, like very strong. I know people that have overdosed and died on that actually, and it's essentially, and I'm just gonna say exactly how I feel about it. You go to, this is how it happened for me. I knew people and friends that were on it, right, and I knew the effects of it because I've taken it before I actually got prescribed it, and it would make me feel great. It would get me super high. So I went to the clinic one day.
So that's what you wanted.
That's what I wanted, right?
Love it.
I love it. So I went to the clinic one day as a 23-year-old messed up kid that anyone could tell that I was sick, and I asked the lady to talk to the doctor, and within 20 minutes, I had my first dose. And then I'd go back every single week, and I'd say it's not enough. They'd bring me up, not enough, bring me up. And I started at 15 milligrams, and when I got into rehab, I was at like 130.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's a godsend that I ended up getting off that stuff because it
Wow.
it was hard to get off of, but it doesn't help anyone, because if I wouldn't have went to rehab, I would have kept taking that stuff because I was getting it for free. I'm not paying for it. So you tell a drug addict, here you go, here's your high every day for free.
Right.
You don't have to go scrounge up money to get high. Here you go.
I never thought of it that way, actually. And my dad worked at a methadone clinic. He's a pharmacist.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I think it was hard for him to, like, look at his daughter and then see people coming in, like, giving him the doses. And he's like, okay, you're going to come back tomorrow? Like, cutting people off, too. Like, it's a whole system. But I've never... It's so funny that, like, with my addict brain, I thought of that, too. I'm like, that would be fun. Like, just going, getting free methadone and going. But, like, yeah, I never thought of it just in that way where people don't want to get off opiates at all. They're just, this is like free drugs. That's crazy.
And that's what we do, right? Is we take something and we manipulate it to suit our needs. So you were taking other drugs at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, of course.
It was just like a cocktail I was making, right? But that's the one I got every single day. And the one more thing I want to add about methadone that I don't like is that I've seen this firsthand in treatment centers. So it's a prescribed medication, right? So people are going to treatment like I did. I was doing multiple other drugs, but when I got into treatment, when I did like my biography or whatever you want to call it, when they asked me all these questions, they asked me, do you want to get off methadone? And I know a lot of people who said no. So they're in treatment, they're getting off all the other stuff they're doing, but they're staying on methadone because it's like how alcohol and marijuana is. It's normalized, right? Because you can go buy it at a corner store, or I could go to the pharmacy and get it legally prescribed to me. So but like, it's horrible. Methadone is a horrible, horrible drug. And like, for anyone that doesn't know much about it, Google it, because the effects it has on your body, your teeth. And thank God I was only on it for 8 months. So it was hard to get off of, but it wasn't like impossible. But there was a guy that I seen trying to get off of it that was on it for 10 years, and watching him go through it,
The withdrawal.
the withdrawal was like, it was, I felt his pain. It was horrible. He went through like 6 sweaters in one day just sweating. He couldn't stand up. He was literally curled up in a ball in the smoker's pit, just curling up, shaking. And the guy ended up leaving. He didn't stay.
I think the bit of hope, and I remember that guy actually too. I think the bit of hope with it though is like, you were able to get off it and you're doing great now. Yeah. But you had to come to a point where you're like, I want to stop this. I'm done. I want to be clean. I see the other side. I see, like you said, the bright faces in rehab, the people that are recovering.
Yes.
I want that.
Yes.
Right. And so there is hope in that sense. But you're right. If there's no solution, and you can go to the end of your life using it forever, right? And I just, one more thing before we move on, but when you're talking about that, it reminds me of this like whole California sober idea, where it's like, I'm going to be sober, but I'm still going to smoke weed.
Yep.
Man, drugs are drugs, alcohol is alcohol. It's all the same shit, right? I was told in Utah one time, I was at a meeting in Utah, because we ended up going to the same treatment center, which is ironic, at different times, obviously.
That's so funny.
And shout out Tyler too, who introduced us, by the way. I forgot to do that. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, thank you. And I heard in Utah one day a guy said, he was sharing, he goes, listen, if you're here for drugs, or alcohol or gambling or porn or what, it's same shit, different shovel. And I love that. It's like, we just use external things to fix the internal state.
Yeah.
That's what addiction is for me, essentially.
Absolutely.
Right?
And like, one more thing too, we keep adding things here, but for me, I won't lie, like, I did think there was a point when I was like halfway off of cutting off of methadone. I'm like, why don't I just stay? I should just stay on this, man. Right?
Yeah, that's what I would
addict
think
brain
too.
comes back.
This was like 6 weeks into my program, but and it was because it was getting hard to get off of. I was withdrawing, couldn't sleep. But I just want to share that we're talking about maybe a little bit of negative stuff right now, but I want to keep it positive. When I got off of it, like it took a couple weeks to be completely off of it, but I remember, like, it's just so much better now. I say this all the time. Favorite part about waking up is just knowing how I'm gonna feel, right? And I can do that every day now because I'm off that crap. And I remember the feeling. So I did a blind taper. That's what it's called. So I'd go down every day in treatment, and they were tapering me off of methadone. So they would just give me my drink in a cup. I wouldn't know the milligram, right? Because as a drug addict, when you're doing drugs, you're like, okay, this is the good stuff.
Like, it's like,
this
finally, you're looking forward to it all night.
But it's like a science. It really is.
I remember, I knew I was getting near the end because I had about, like, say, 3-4 weeks left of my program. And I would beg the nurses. I'm like, what is this? Like, how much is this? Just tell me, because I know I'm getting close to the end. And they wouldn't tell me. I love
Placebo.
that.
Yeah, placebo. Yeah.
And then I went down one day in the morning to get my vitamins and my methadone drink. And they said, congratulations, you're done. And that feeling, man.
I remember you telling me that.
Wow.
That's
huge.
The best part, my favorite part about all this, so the methadone clinic that I actually got put on methadone, the nurse, she's such a sweet lady. I remember when I had asked to get on it, she's like, you shouldn't do this. You really shouldn't do this, right? Because I was young. Most of the people there are a bit older. I was a young person going in there. And she, like, I could see, like, just the heartfelt in her eyes. She did not want me to do it. And she's seen me for months go back and go up and up and up. Everything she warned me not to do, I did it anyways. But I asked that day I got off methadone. I said, can I please? Because I had to call her before I went to treatment. And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be coming back anymore. I'm going to treatment. And she was so happy that I was going. So I had asked the nurse, I said, can I please call the nurse back home and tell her I got off of it?
Oh my God.
And I hadn't talked to her in 3 months.
So special.
And I called her.
She's probably in tears.
I was just going to say that.
She was like, oh my gosh. She said, I'm so happy.
Because especially people like in medical and see addiction and see it firsthand, like they know that's not us.
Yeah.
It's not who we are. And they can see the bright light that she saw in you clearly.
Yeah.
And it's just such a special, like, it's beautiful. It's like a miracle.
The small wins like that make recovery and worth it. Because sometimes you might think, like, you know, like, fuck, what's the point of this? Especially, like, not now. I really see the point of it now that I got to overtime. But, like, in that period in time when I was in rehab and I haven't even been out in the world sober yet, I'm like, what is the fucking point of this? Like, I don't even, you know what I mean? But, like,
sucks.
little things like that made it so worth it. I was like, wow, like, what an amazing feeling. I can call someone and tell them I got off methadone. With 3 months ago, I was going there every day begging, just get me 5 more milligrams up, right? And then something like that happens, it feels really
beautiful.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Huge.
So, Emily, why don't you talk about, like, you talked about what you were like, kind of what happened to bring you into recovery. What's life like today in recovery for Emily?
Oh my goodness. Okay, today, I hate to say it, life is not as exciting, but it's exciting in different ways.
Yeah.
Like I'm living in downtown Toronto for sure. That's when my addiction really started. I was working in the industry, like the bartending industry, clubs. I was, doing like 4-day binges, just like drinking on shift, doing lines in the bathroom. Like it was fun. And I would, I was so young. I was about like 25 maybe, where, I would get taken on yachts and I'd get taken to these nice hotels. And like, I was living that type of dream, but I was fucked up the whole time. And so life today obviously is less than that, but it's just, there's so many more gifts in this. Like my twin brother, he has 2 kids and his wife, they've seen me through shit. And I was thinking about this with your episode with your sister, that it is a family disease. Because I totally remember last time I relapsed, I was like, this has nothing to do with you. Like, it's me. Like, why do you care? And then they're just like, of course we fucking care. Like, are you kidding? So having them in my life again has been a gift. Yeah. And they asked me to be their son's godmother, which is so huge. Like, I was just like, me? Like, what? Yeah. Like, there's days where they wouldn't let me see their kids. So gifts like that that's what keeps me. But also too, like, since like there was a lot of shifts in my first year of sobriety. My mom passed away, which was like the first month of this podcast, or my podcast that I was trying to put out there. So
you were sober at the time?
I was sober at the time, but then I relapsed. March 18th, I relapsed after my mom died, and that's when things got really bad, but I was still putting out the podcast because I was like, I'm done, because there was a lot more on the line. And this podcast, like the main reason why I wanted to start the podcast was like more accountability. And it was more just for myself and proving to people. But like it kind of sounds selfish, but Yeah, it just today is just honestly waking up not hungover is life changing. Being able to be an aunt, being able to be a godmother. I'm a good daughter. I'm a good sister. I'm a good friend now. I dance now, which has been a huge part of my recovery because dance has always been so traumatic for me growing up. And now that I'm back into it with like an amazing dance community here in the city, it's just, oh my God. I would never be able to do this if I was still drinking and drugging. Yeah. Absolutely. And just the people, and it's life today is great. I really can't see myself going back on that other side.
And what I want to say something, when you say like less exciting, I can kind of I understand what you mean by
There's
that.
There's less like peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
For sure.
I say this lots. I'm like, now that, because like I'm very busy with work and our podcast, and then try and make time for other things. Sometimes I just really appreciate the boredom. Just to, you know what I mean? Because I remember waking up every single day and being like, almost like you're in the military. Wake up every day, you put your suit on, you're like, all right, it's time to fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
Chaos. So
chaos.
And that's, my brain tells me like that was excitement to me before, right? And not having no rules, really, just like rules for myself, like partying, hanging out with whoever I wanted, not caring what anyone thought. No shame, right? But now it's nice, like, to not have that. Like I said, you wake up every day, I know how I'm gonna feel, I know what I gotta do. Right now, it's just up to me to do it, and I appreciate that now, because like life before, man, was,
there's so much, like, there's so many secrets, there's so much lying, there's so much like I did this, I did that. Like now it's just like calm. But we're addicted to the chaos. At least I am.
No, 100%. Anthony says that all the time.
I loved chaos.
It's a distraction from how we're feeling, right?
Exactly.
And I don't have to look in the mirror when I'm in chaos.
Exactly.
It's everyone else's fault, like we talked about before, right? Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And so I have to say this, but are the pennies still involved in the dance? Okay.
Oh my God, no.
That's nice.
Well, like I do like a different type of dancing now, but it's, oh my God, no. Do you imagine today, even if kids today had to deal with that shit?
I will never forget that.
If my daughter was like telling me that when I go home, like, you're out of there.
Yeah,
you were fucking out of there.
You mentioned something that interests me earlier with the whole ADHD thing. Because I grew up, I know I don't have ADHD, I don't think, but I mean, I am kind of crazy, but I don't think I have ADHD. But I did grow up with people who did. But when you said that you had ADHD, but your brother had it or whatever, and it didn't really, like, no one really thought you had it. I don't know if I've actually ever met a girl who's been like, I have ADHD. Like, that's like not like, say, normal, because I mean, obviously if guys get it, women are gonna get it too. But like, I feel like that's not a thing that's talked about a lot. Like,
it isn't.
Women having ADHD.
No, it's not talked about a lot, and that's why it's misdiagnosed a lot too. And like, I definitely had it growing up. It's hard for me to concentrate. So actually, I got diagnosed when I was in Utah from the psychiatrist there, and I was like, yes, like finally, I can feel something. And now, I'm on ADHD medication, but it's not a stimulant, because I know I'd be addicted to that. So it's a non-stimulant.
Good for you.
I wish you told me that like 4 months ago, because I probably wouldn't have listened. But that's why I relapsed, is because I started going back on stimulants that way. So when you said that to me, I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I feel so much better for you, because it's a dangerous path.
It's such a slippery slope. And that's why even too, like, I had to get surgery on my nose, because I completely put a hole in my nose by doing too much. And after the surgery, like, I had to get like a piece of like rib put out of me and then put in there. Like, it was a whole big surgery. Wow. They like were just like, okay, so we're gonna prescribe you Percocets, and I'm just like, as much as I want to say yes, like, I really fucking wish I could say yes, but my mom's right there and she's just looking at me. I'm like, no, like, I'm an addict, like, fuck, you know. And then she's just like, are you sure? Like, she kept on pushing
what
it.
A
like,
test.
Oh my God. That was the most brutal time. And so going back and forth between like Tylenol and Advil, being like in so much pain, I'm just like, you know what? This is going to be okay. Nice. It's going to be worth it. Like, I just know. So I'm grateful that I made that decision.
That's a pivotal moment. And when you told me that, I was like, that was you wouldn't be, I fully believe that you would not be sitting here right now if you chose the other option.
Absolutely.
Because one's not enough. It's like, this feels good. The pain's going away. What would 2 feel like? What would 3 feel like? Right?
That's exactly how my drug of choice was painkillers. That's how I got into. I got into a very bad dirt biking accident.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up.
How it starts.
Yeah, and like, I'm not blaming no doctors at all. I don't like to choose that path. It was me. The doctor gave me like a 2-week prescription, and I rinsed through it in like 5 days. And it wasn't even Percocets. It was something that was less than Percocets. And I knew a friend that did Percocets, and so it's the same ballpark, right? The painkillers I was taking. So then I went to him, and I remember going back to the doctor and asking, hey, like, can I get some more? I think it was like Tramadol or something it was called. And he's like, dude, I just gave you a prescription like 5 days ago. So the doctor cut me off. He didn't give me anything. It's not his fault. It was me.
Yeah.
You know, I went in,
He could read you.
I went balls to the wall with it myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that doctors aren't responsible sometimes for people's problems, but for me specifically, it was me that did it myself.
No one put a gun to your head.
No one put a gun to my head. I put the gun to my own head. And yeah, it's a slippery slope with any medications, right? Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know too much about like the whole like some of the mental health medications that they give. I think that they do help a lot of people, but the ones like the one like Valium, kind of like
Yeah, so it is a benzo. Yeah,
right,
Yeah,
right, like
yeah.
because
I
myself,
used to love those.
yeah.
Good time.
And I was taking those as well when I was in addiction, and like
Yeah, they're for anxiety.
for anxiety. When I was thinking like I was thinking like I could just go to a doctor, tell that guy I got bad anxiety, and boom.
Oh yeah, I check
right?
my doctors all the time.
Yeah, we're good at that. Yeah.
Oh, we're so good at that. Even in my like deep addiction, when things first started really coming back for me, like I was living alone in Toronto. I would not call my mom for like maybe like 3 to 4 days because I'd be sleeping. And they all thought I had depression.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure, let's go with that.
Yeah.
I literally said, like, let's go
Just
with depression.
fix me.
Yeah. So I was put on antidepressants, and then I was still so like up and down. But I'd never told them about my actual drug problem. Like, I'm like, you guys, like, it's the cocaine, but like, hey, here we are. But it's like, it's I was just like keeping it a secret, but I was manipulating my psychiatrist, being like, oh, I'm so like,
I don't know what's
depressed.
wrong
I
with
don't know
me.
what's wrong with me. Like,
That's so funny, man.
it's so fun.
I remember having those talks with my dad, like pretty close to the end. I'm like, we were thinking like maybe he got like bipolar.
Yeah,
maybe,
I was told that too.
maybe there's something wrong with you. And like my whole life, my dad would tell me like, you're a special kid, you're smart, you're gonna make it far in life.
Yeah.
And then like as the years got worse and worse, he's like, I don't know.
Maybe not, kid.
Maybe there's something wrong with you. And then I remember that phone call. Like this was after like a couple months in rehab. I'm like, Dad, like, well, I'm not gonna say there's nothing wrong with me, but like I don't have that. It was the drugs, you know?
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
just the drugs
It's
that were
the
fucking
drugs.
me
You
up.
take the drugs away, and it's like you
Yeah.
just magically become, not at first, but it takes
no, it
work.
takes a while.
It takes work.
That's
right?
funny you say that. No,
Become
it was just the
better.
cocaine. It was the drugs.
Yeah, it's
that were-
basically the cocaine. Like,
No?
it's like, let's just put it flat out. And it's actually funny when you say bipolar, because I was with an ex who was also like, he had drugs around him a lot. And that's probably why I kept coming back to him, because he had what I wanted. But I was living with him, very toxic, very me using drugs every day without him knowing. And he's like, maybe you're bipolar. Like, why are you sleeping all day and then being crazy at night? And I'm like, because it's the fucking cocaine. Like, come on, bro. Yeah. But then he actually went to one of his buddies and got Adderall and made me take it. And it didn't do shit for me because I was already high. And I'm just like, I'm not bipolar. Like, let's just, like, can we be real? But God, that was such a weird time, just like figuring out my mental health. But I knew exactly what was going on, and it was addiction.
Yeah.
Plain old addiction.
Plain old addiction.
Yeah.
But you can't tell anybody about it because
No.
you're weak, right? And it's
Yeah.
I think that leads me into my next question is like, what's for me the biggest misconception in addiction and with addicts is that we're weak, right? What do you think is like a big misconception in addiction and with addicts?
That's a great question.
That is a really, really good question. Because, like, honestly, there are times I wake up every day and I am grateful that I'm an addict.
Yeah.
If I didn't go through this type of work, this type of, trauma work, inner child work, like, if I didn't have an addiction, I wouldn't have gone through that. And I am so emotionally self-aware now that it has brought me into, like, a whole other level of life. Addicts are not bad people. They are we are good people. We are weak for sure. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that, but it is like that's a tough one. But I always say they're the strongest people because they want the help too. And if you get better, that helps. Sorry, I'm not really making it.
Well, I mean, you've been through a lot of relapse, so I would say you're pretty fucking resilient.
Yeah, resilience. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, for
I
sure.
think that addicts are very strong people with weak points, but doing what we're doing, we're equipped with tools to to defend those weak points, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned spirituality as one of those tools.
Yeah,
too,
spirituality
right?
was a huge.
I love
one
talking
for
about
me.
it. So,
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. And I think that didn't really happen for me until my mom died. Which I always say this, like, oh, I wish I got sober earlier and for her, but you can't go back in time. But yeah, when I say that, if I was just like a normal drinker and never used drugs, like, I don't know where I'd be today. And I'm just so grateful to be in a place like this. Like, I'd rather be on this side talking about recovery, talking about what I used to be and helping other people that way. And, I used to go through some fucked up shit, and now I feel like life is just more more I'm not thinking of my words, but
handleable.
yeah, handleable, sure. Precious, more precious, way more precious.
Way more to lose now.
Way more to lose. Oh my god, yeah. So yeah, the definition of addict and how people view it is always going to be such a low kind of look down upon, which that's why it's hard. But if it was easy, then everyone would be doing it, right?
Yeah. And it's a hard thing to admit, because I was talking about this with Ann yesterday. A drug addict, obviously, a homeless guy was asking me for money a couple weeks ago, and I said, I'll go buy you whatever you need, but like I'm not giving you any money. And he's like, I need a tent, bro. I need a tent. I'm like, well, let's come with me. I'll go buy you a tent. And he's like, can you just give me the $5, man? I'll go buy the tent. And he was like, we're going back and forth about it. And I said, if you just want this money to get high, just tell me. I said, like, I've been through it too, bro. Like, just tell me. And then he said, yeah, like, okay, I need to get high. I feel like shit right now. And what I got from that was that this guy is on the side of the street asking people for money, right? And he's not afraid to do that, but he's still afraid to admit to anyone that he's a drug addict, right? And that goes to show, like, I mean, I can tell you right now, I don't know if I have what it takes in me to go on the side of the road and ask someone for a toonie. That takes... Like,
oh God!
right?
Yeah,
but
I never thought of it
but
that way.
he still wouldn't admit
that it was for drugs.
You know what I mean? Until I said, "Hey, man, like it's okay. You can talk to me about it." And then he did it. And when he said it, you could see, like, yeah, man, like,
like the disappointment.
The disappointment
and
that he still feels, and he doesn't have this. Well, I'm sure he does, but like, he puts the shame aside to ask people for money, but like. And that's heartbreaking, but he won't admit that he's a drug addict, right? Yeah. He's going to sit there and do what we do best, lie and say, no,
lie, manipulate,
right?
cheat. Yeah.
Well, like, especially in probably today's world, like, homeless people, and especially in the city, it's grown, obviously. And I think people would rather be homeless and admit that they're drug addicts.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is crazy. Very crazy. And that's what brings me back to my point earlier about, like, I'm not trying to get too political, but I don't even know in myself, what do we do to help that? Because, like, these people, obviously, they don't have the $2 to go buy drugs. How are they going to have the thousands and thousands of dollars to get into a rehab center? Or how are they going to have the means to get a hold of a place and get on a waiting list and not die before they get into that place? Like, what do we do to help that? I don't know, but I hope someday some type of awareness gets brought around that issue and something gets done about it, because it truly is heartbreaking. And mind those people too, but there's millions of people that aren't even on the streets that are, probably in some trap house or in somewhere that are getting high every day that'll never get help.
Never.
I think that for one, doing this is one thing that we can do. We're not going to save anyone's life, but if we're getting the word out that there's a better life, that's my goal here. But I think you're underestimating the fact that he was able to admit that in that moment. For all you know, that could have helped him one step closer onto his journey of recovery. Because for me, the first time I told the truth was, I've told the story before, but when my dad, 10 years ago, when I was 23, my dad, all you care about, Anthony, is the next party. What the hell is wrong with you? That's all you care about is the next party. And I was like, Dad, I'm not even having fun anymore. I can't stop. And that was the first time that I told the truth. And that helped me. I didn't get sober the next day, but it was one step closer where I could finally admit that I was doing something that was not benefiting my life and I was killing myself slowly.
And like your dad was probably like, that probably made your dad realize a lot, because I also said this before. I remember when I said to my parents, this was like 3 days before I went to rehab, I went to their house, and my parents asked me this question for years, like, why the fuck do you do drugs? Why? Just stop. But they don't understand. And I said, Mom, Dad, this conversation we're having right now,
this is why I do drugs.
This is because I can't have these talks. I can't talk. I can't do anything unless I'm high. To feel normal, I need to be high. And my parents didn't even have, like, they didn't even know what to say when I said that. They were just like, that's not normal. That's not good. You need some help, right? So, but I remember when I said that to them, there was some type of, like, connection there, like, I was just open, I was honest, and I told them how I felt. Because before, I would just give off that vibe, like, I just do fucking, I go to work, I do this, I'm fine.
It's a phase.
Just a phase, Mom. I just, you know what I mean? But no, meanwhile, I'm doing hundreds of dollars of drugs every day that it's not normal at all. So I remember when I said that, it made my parents, they were thinking about sending me to rehab. They were for about a month before it happened. But I think it happened, things like really happened after I said that to them, like, no, like, I'm not just partying and doing drugs. I'm not just doing drugs on the weekends. Like, I'm doing drugs from the second I wake up.
Full time.
My day, my morning, my life, everything revolves around me getting high.
Yeah. I was always the person that, like, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. But I, like, when I was with my ex and always having drugs on me, and I would be getting like alcohol, like, driven to me like by, I don't remember, it's like dial a bottle type shit. I can't remember. But I always say like, okay, once I get rid of all this alcohol and do all of this, I'll be done. But then it's like gonna still take me a while to keep doing it, right? And then once after the 3 days are done, it's like, okay, now I want more. And it's like that deadly cycle. But I remember too realizing that I had like, maybe this is a problem. Like, I think it was, oh God, I was just always bailing on people. And I was bailing, and I'd rather get high than hang out with people. Wow. And I'd rather be alone than hang out with people. I'd rather, even like grabbing a bag with like friends and stuff, I'd grab my own bag secretly and then keep it and then just go get high by myself. And then I liked it because nobody judged me. Nobody judged the amount I was doing.
That's a good point, man.
And I was like, okay, this might be bad. And I remember talking to one of my oldest friends too. Like, I grew up with her, and she kind of had a feeling like I was losing a lot of weight. I was so skinny. Everyone had a feeling, especially from my hometown, and I was living there, and everyone kind of figured it. And I remember my best friend at the time, she kind of took me around, but we weren't friends for a while. But I was like, actually, like, I have, like, this is bad. This is really, really bad. And then she starts, like, crying, but I'm like, okay, forget we said any of this. Like, forget it, let's just go have another drink. And that summer was not even a rock bottom for me. I know I had still a lot more digging to do, but that was a realization of, like, I like this too much. And I'm going to fight until I can get this next high. Every day.
And that's all I'm going to do.
And like you said, another good point. You brought up lots of good points. I'm happy we had you on today.
Thanks.
But one of the things that you said to me that stuck out was like, near the end, I wasn't even like, I was like avoiding friends. I was just wanting to get high by myself, right? But I remember the Christmas prior to the one that just passed last year, the 2024.
No, 23.
2023 Christmas. I come back from work. I was gone for about a month and a half. Hadn't seen my family, right? And I was so excited to see them. We were talking for weeks before. Oh, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you. And I was only there for like 4 days, and I had to go back to work. Like, I come on like the 23rd and had to leave on like the 27th.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I got back on the 23rd, and I was working in the bush at the time. So like there was like very little. There was still some drug use at that point, but like I wasn't getting as high as I would have if I would have been at home, because there's nowhere to buy drugs where I was, or else I would have been getting high.
Yeah.
But I come home and I have like aunts, uncles, cousins. Like, I have a very, very big, good family, and everyone flew into my little hometown like they do every year to have Christmas. And I went over the first night that everyone got together for a supper. I didn't even go, right?
Oh my God!
And then I went I went on the Christmas Eve, and I genuinely enjoy these things. Like, I love my family, and it's so fun to be around them. But I was just wanting to get high so bad. I remember and it was actually on methadone. I got super high, like completely high, to the point where like I was like not even there. And I went to everyone was at my parents' house. And at this point, my dad kind of thought, because my addiction was about 4 or 5 years of getting real bad, but this is probably around like 2 years ago, right? We're a year and a half. And my dad wasn't sure. He kind of thought I was getting better a little bit because I wasn't using as hard when I was in the bush. So I come home. Everyone was happy to see me. Oh, Caleb's doing better. He found a job he really likes. I come back, and I was sitting on my dad's couch. I'll never forget this. And there's probably like 15 people in the house, and I'm sitting on the couch. We're all watching TV, and I looked at my dad, and my dad looked at me, and he knew I was fucked up. He knew. He didn't say nothing, but I could see it in my dad's eyes, like he was disappointment, right? And then I stayed for a bit. I went home, like barely seeing them over the Christmas holidays, and I had to leave on the 27th. And then I remember me and my dad, we had talked about it, right? Like, before I left, he's like, "You were fucked up the other day when you were at my house." Like, he was disappointed, and he was whatever feeling he had, he was not happy, right? Seeing his son like that. But I remember, like, I didn't even want to be around them. I just wanted to sit in my house and get high. Yeah. Not even high with anyone. I just wanted to get high by myself. Yeah. Right? And it's just...
the addiction just takes over.
You know what I mean? So I have such a beautiful family. I have beautiful friends. My brother's my best friend, and I didn't want to spend any time with them after not seeing them for months because I was working. I just wanted to get high, and then, there I am back off to work.
So, Emily, if you could say something to someone right now that's really struggling, doesn't know how to stop, doesn't know what to do next, doesn't know how to talk about it, maybe a woman, maybe a man, maybe a person, what would you say to that person right now?
Okay, so I would probably give them a huge hug.
Yeah.
I would give them a hug and say, you're going to be okay. You are not bad. You are not a bad person for wanting to do this to yourself. You are not stupid. You are not, incapable. You are enough. this is a problem that you have and you're going to deal with it, but you'll always kind of have that. And I kind of like make it clear to them, I guess. This is actually, I'm just totally making this like, this is what I would do, but I would make it clear to them. But then I would always recommend therapy or group therapy or meetings and
some kind of professional help.
Kind of professional help. Because I do actually have people that come to me and say, like, I've been so bad I can't stop drinking. And I'm just like, oh God, I'm not professional, right? But like, this is what worked for me.
This is what I did, yes.
Yeah, this is what I did. And it took me a fucking damn long time. Like 2 rehabs later, all this therapy, all this like sober living to, oh my God. Like it took me a long fucking time, but it's so worth it. It is so fucking worth it. And yeah, I would just really tell that person, you're not bad. Because like, there's so much shame, there's so much guilt, and it's so attached. And it's just, you're gonna like hate yourself and try, you can't. Like this, you must be suffering so much in order for you to like want to do this to yourself. And we see that, I hear you, I see you type of thing. So yeah, I would definitely kind of approach it that way, especially, you know, like younger women who, you know, especially like in the sex industry too, because I have a lot of friends that were in that. That's a bad slippery slope as well. I never was in it, thank God. I could have, but anyways, I could have been easily. But like a lot of my friends were just like deep into that, and they had no way out because they were making all this money, but then their addiction was also getting worse.
Like, I'm gonna touch on that quickly because like as a woman, like that has to be almost addicting in a way. Like,
absolutely.
You know, like you're a beautiful girl. You're like, I need some money. I know if I just, you know, put this out there, like 150 guys are going to text me in the first hour.
Absolutely.
And then
you're
you
going to make money.
You're going to get money. Like, and I don't want to say that's an easy source of money because I truly don't think it's easy what you guys have to put yourselves through to get there. Back in my addiction, if I knew, okay, I got to go through this shitty thing for an hour with some guy or a girl I don't want to be with, whatever it is, but I'm going to get like a couple $100. It's like it's addicting.
And
man.
I actually replicate that with the tutor that I had. Like shit, I have to go through this next hour with this guy in order to get grades. And like I always felt like, oh, do I really have to do this in order to be good? Like it was just, you know, to the shitty things. I don't know why that just came up, but like you saying that just replicated that in a way. But yeah, like the industry, obviously, like I can't really speak too much on it, but I did have a girl on my podcast who was in it, and it was tough for her to get out of that.
I can imagine.
You know, especially with the money coming through. But when she did get out, it was hard for a while. Obviously, you're not making as much money, but of course, if you want to align your life into a life where you kind of picture if you want to have like a husband or kids, like
you have to get out of it.
You got to get out of it. Yeah, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
One of the many things that just isn't talked about enough.
Yeah,
You know?
I think it's important to note too that some women, and you know maybe men too, but some women are forced to be there too, right? Like there's a huge, you know, human trafficking problem that we have.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add to that too, and I'll share this in the show notes too, but there are resources and shelters and safe places where women can go.
Yeah.
And you know, the important thing is you have to come to a realization that you want to stop.
Yeah.
Right. You want to get out of it and then reach out for help. And the help is there because people have done it before, right?
Oh, for sure.
You're not alone.
It's there. And it's been easier now, I think, for that.
Yeah.
I had a girl, I was in a sober living house who was in the sex industry as well. And it like looking at her life, I'm like, oh God, that looks hard. Like it just kind of turned me off of it. Like all the shit she had to do. It's just like, does not look fun for me. But yeah, there is a dark side to it. You know, it is not so glamorous as people probably put it off. Like, you know, if you love sex, like why not get paid for it? Sure. Yeah. That'd be great. But no. Your addiction comes in so many different ways.
Yeah. And
Well,
then you just use that thing.
Emily, it's been great having you on the
Thanks.
podcast.
Where can we find you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram. It's called @TalksOnTheRocks podcast with like an underscore. You can also follow me personally. It's like the letter M SOURRR. I don't know why, but listen to my podcast. It's on Spotify. I'm actually, if I can say this, season 3 is coming out May 13th.
Nice.
So watch out for that. I'm going to have my new episode. Hopefully maybe have you guys on, which would be a
for
lot
sure.
of fun.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for
Seriously,
coming.
this
Thank
was
you.
a really good conversation,
Yeah,
and
we
it's good
appreciate it.
awareness. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Please help us grow the channel and like, share, and subscribe for more content. The discussions and stories shared on this podcast are for informational and motivational purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, addiction treatment, or therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please consult a licensed physician, addiction specialist, or mental health professional. You are no longer alone.